that followed these comments, including my own administration. And what I said to Shirley was that the full story she was trying to tell, a story about overcoming our own biases and recognizing ourselves and folks who on the surface seem different, is exactly the kind of story we need to hear in America. It's exactly what we need to hear because we've all got our biases. And rather than jump to conclusions and point fingers and play some of the games that are played on cable TV, we should all look inward and try to examine what's in our own hearts. We should all make more of an effort to discuss with one another in a truthful and mature and responsible way the divides that still exist, the discrimination that's still out there, the prejudices that still hold us back. A discussion that needs to take place not on cable TV, not just through a bunch of academic symposia or fancy commissions or panels, not through political posturing, but around kitchen tables and water coolers and church basements and in our schools and with our kids all across the country. If we can have that conversation in our own lives, if we can take an opportunity to learn from our imperfections and our mistakes, to grow as individuals and as a country, and if we engage in the hard work of translating words into deeds, because words are easy and deeds are hard, then I'm confident that we can move forward together and make this country a little more perfect than it was before. Now, since we're on the topic of speaking honestly with one another, I want to devote the balance of my time, the balance of my remarks, to an issue that I believe will largely determine not only African American success, but the success of our nation in the 21st century. And that is whether we are offering our children the very best education possible. I know some argue that as we emerge from a recession, my administration should focus solely on economic issues. They said that during health care as if health care had nothing to do with economics. Said it during financial reform as if financial reform had nothing to do with economics. And now they're saying it as we work on education issues. But education is an economic issue, if not the economic issue of our time. It's an economic issue when the unemployment rate for folks who've never gone to college is almost double what it is for those who have gone to college. It's an economic issue when 8 in 10 new jobs will require workforce training or a higher education by the end of this decade. It's an economic issue when countries that out-educate us today are going to out-compete us tomorrow. Now, for years, we've recognized that education is a prerequisite for prosperity. And yet we've tolerated a status quo where America lags behind other nations. Just last week, we learned that in a single generation, America went from number 1 to 12th in college completion rates for young adults. Used to be number 1, now we're number 12. At the same time, our 8th graders trail about 10 other nations in science and math. Meanwhile, when it comes to black students, African American students trail not only almost every other developed nation abroad, but they badly trail their white classmates here at home. an achievement gap that is widening the income gap between black and white, between rich and poor. We've talked about it, we know about it, but we haven't done enough about it. And this status quo is morally inexcusable, it is economically indefensible, and all of us are going to have to roll up our sleeves to change it. And that's why from day one of this administration, we've made excellence in American education, excellence for all our students, a top priority. And no one's shown more leadership on this issue than my Secretary of Education, Arne Duncan, who is here today. I chose Arne not only because he's a great ball player. Now, Arne and I play a little bit on the weekends. I chose Arne because I knew that for him, closing the achievement gap, unlocking the potential of every child, isn't just a job. It's been the cause of his life. Now, because a higher education's never been more important or more expensive, it's absolutely essential that we put a college degree within reach for anyone who wants it. And that's why we're making higher education more affordable, so we can meet the goals I've set of producing a higher share of college graduates than any other nation by 2020. I want us to be back number 1 instead of number 12. And in pursuit of that goal, we eliminated taxpayer subsidies to big banks. We saved tens of billions of dollars, and we used those savings to open the door to additional financial aid, to open the door for college to millions more students. This is something that a lot of you may not be aware of, but we have added tens of billions of dollars that were going to bank middlemen, so that money is now going to students, millions more students who are getting scholarships to go to college. That's already been done. We're making loan repayment more manageable, so young people don't graduate like Michelle and me with such big loan payments every month. You're welcome. That's right there. Well, you can relate. And we're reinvesting in our historically black colleges and universities. Our HBCUs, we are reinvesting in them while at the same time reforming and strengthening our community college, which are great undervalued assets. Great assets that are a lifeline to so many working families in every community across America. But here's the thing. Even if we do all this good stuff for higher education, too many of our children see college as nothing but a distant dream, because their education went off the rails long before they turned 18. These are young people who've been relegated to failing schools in struggling communities where there are too many obstacles, too few role models, communities that I represented as a state senator, communities that I fought to lift up as a community organizer. I remember going to a school back in my organizing days and seeing children, young children, maybe 5 or 6, eyes were brimming with hope, had such big dreams for the future. You'd ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? They'd want to be a doctor, they want to be a lawyer. And then I remember the principal telling me that soon all that would change. The hope would start fading from their eyes as they started to realize that maybe their dreams wouldn't come